Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, aka UUFNN. I think I'm channeling someone again. I'm going to try not to be. Hold on. Welcome. Here it is our mission to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. It is our vision, intention, and faith that by being and working together, we can bring about justice and build a compassionate community. All are welcome to be a part of our community, regardless of racial identity, ethnic background, age, economic circumstances, educational achievement, judicial history, immigration status, mental health challenges, sexual orientation, or gender identity. UUFNN is about compassion and support for all, not judgment. I'm J.J. Lee, and it is my pleasure, along with Sophie Moeller, to serve as your worship associates this morning. Our Sunday service is a multi-platform event combining in-person and online, coming to you live from outside and inside the UUFNN Great Room. That means, as my esteemed colleague Bill Miller would say, it's complicated and things can go wrong, so be patient. If this is your first time visiting with us, welcome. We're glad to have you join us. If you're a newcomer joining us online, feel free to contact the office or our website for more information. You can also click on the link in the chat box on Zoom to fill out the newcomer form and sign up for our newsletter. That'll keep you informed of all our activities. If you are a newcomer here in person, please see one of us to help you get to someone who can give you information you need to be connected. If you are here in person also, please follow our remaining COVID safety protocols. Wear a KN95 or equivalent mask. Don't crowd the restrooms. If you are moved to sing along, don't. Just mumble behind your mask. Again, my thanks to Bill. He wrote this. That's the obnoxiously restrictive news. The good news is we can hug each other again. Just please get consent with your huggy. Consent, that's a new thing. Zoomers, I guess that's what we're calling you people on Zoom now. Please update your name on screen, helping everyone to know who you are. Although you'll be muted, you can use the chat box for comments, especially during the prayer and meditation session. It's best to refrain from posting announcements while folks are presenting, however. Following the service, Zoomers can join in small virtual groups for coffee hour to visit virtually. If you're here in person, you can mingle at will wherever you like. I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a bit about our worship leader for today's service. The Reverend Dr. Kharma Amos, pronouns she, hers, holds plural ministerial standing in the Unitarian Universalist Association, UUA, where she was granted preliminary fellowship in 2020, as well as the Metropolitan Community Churches, where she was originally ordained in 2002. She is a preacher, activist, writer, singer, educator, fundraiser, and administrator with a passion for engaging others who are committed to spiritual growth, inclusive community, and social justice. Kharma currently serves full-time as the team lead for resource development for Metropolitan Community Churches, where she is a member of the senior leadership team and manages the denominational staff responsible for finance, fundraising and development, communications, IT, and the creation of resources for ministers and congregations. She also serves as the halftime minister for the Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware. How did we get her today? When do you sleep, Kharma? Kharma received a Bachelor of Arts in Religious Studies from the University of Oregon in 1998, a Master of Divinity degree from Lancaster Theological Seminary 2002, and a Doctor of Ministry degree from the Episcopal Divinity School in 2008. She also served on the Board of Trustees of Lancaster Theological Seminary for several years. Kharma was born in Springfield, Missouri, USA, and has lived and worked professionally in Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Florida, and Delaware, USA. She currently lives in Lewis, Delaware, with her wife, the Reverend Elder Diane Fisher, a proud, I'm going to say it the Canadian way, proud Canadian, currently serving as the senior pastor of the Metropolitan Community Church of Rehoboth Beach. Now what would you pay? They make their home with 3 wise cats and 1 extraordinarily spoiled dog. Thank you, Kharma, for being with us today. Couple of extra announcements. You will notice that we were not able to supply the children's program today. News will be forthcoming. Really sorry about that. Oh, I went into Canadian again a bit. You will be mailed kits for the children's program. Sudden, unavoidable challenge did not allow us to present that program. Also want to let you know that Stan, where are you, darling? Stan has some beautiful Ukrainian flags that he's willing to part with today. So see Stan if you'd like that. At this time, I invite Chris Hyland to the microphone. This is where things could get really dicey, so hang on.
Thank you, JJ, for lowering expectations for me. Oops. Things do get dicey, don't they, with masks. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see everybody and to know everybody is also with us on Zoom. I know that confession is not a standard part of the UU worship service. I'm going to make an exception today. I have to confess to you that I screwed up. We are holding our monthly Talk to the Board session after service today. But because you're not so vigilant, board president lost track of what week we were in, we did not put a notice of the Talk to the Board session in this week's announcements. I hope you can join us right after the service for Talk to the Board, even though my notice to you is a little bit late. In our Talk to the Board sessions, we start with an opening topic and then move to other issues that all of you want to raise to the board. This month, our opening topic will again be about COVID-19. I know you're shocked. We are still continuously revising our safety protocols, and we'd like your views on those. In particular, we'd like to begin today's session with 2 questions from all of you who attend. Number 1, should the board make masks optional for worship services and other indoor events, including the May 1 auction? And number 2, if the board makes masks optional, will that make you more likely or less likely to attend in-person events here at UUFNN? So think about that for the rest of the service, and that's what we'll start with in Talk to the Board. If you're attending today's service on Zoom and you want to participate in Talk to the Board, send a message in the chat that you want to attend Talk to the Board sometime between now and the end of the service, and the tech team will move you into the Talk to the Board breakout room after the service. Lily Egan and I will facilitate the Zoom session. If you're here in the great room today, Talk to the Board will begin a few minutes after the service finishes, right up front here. Adrian Fisher and who's here, and Bobby Ma will facilitate the session. Oh, we hope you will join us after the service. I was asked to add a quick word on where we are in our stewardship campaign. You will be hearing from and seeing the DeBarger Fisher family in a few minutes. Let me just say a quick thank you. Our goal this year is an ambitious $340,000 in promises. To date, as of yesterday, we have received $325,000 in promises. That exceeds by more than 10,000 last year's total pledges. So we, you, us, we're doing well. We just have a little bit farther to go. And if we can get there to our goal, then that will enable us to fund some new initiatives that I've talked about in the last few weeks, including providing some funding to our social justice programs. So help us get there. Thank you very much.
And now, let our service begin.
Good morning. Hi, what a beautiful day today. It's nice to see all your faces. So this morning's call to worship is from Jason Cook, and I encourage you all to really listen to these words as we go into meetings about masks and get a little stiff in how we're feeling. So really listen as we open the call to worship. We seekers are on a quest to discover truth and meaning. Sometimes we think we found it, wrapped up, glimmering with newness, straight off the intellectual assembly line. All the answers right here for us, and others, if they'd only listen. But truth has a way of coming in disguise, sometimes wearing rags and sometimes finery, but so often cloaked from our immediate sight, and sometimes that which we have rejected, that which we have let go of or decided was only for others, but not us, can be our teacher. Let our time of worship be an acknowledgement of the never-ending journey toward truth and meaning, and our appreciation of those we learn from along the way.
Hi, I'm Dave and this is Lois Bianchi, and we've been members of this fellowship for most of our married lives. Which is about 54 years, I believe, that we've been members.
Well, I think I became acutely aware of how important being UU was when my mother passed away in the year 2000. And I had to return to Virginia, and my family had made no plans for what to do for her service. And so I contacted the UU minister in her hometown and was able to actually very quickly put together some plans for a memorial service. And I think that's really been kind of my experience with UU, that in times of difficulty that are not always planned.
Well, back in 2000, and 13, I was living in Petaluma, California in Sonoma County and having a really hard time. I had had a car accident with varied injuries after having slid off a cliff at Big Sur and tumbled in my car for 800 feet. So pretty dramatic car accident.
My history with UUFNN started when I was a teenager back in the late 80s. My mom came here and she would honestly drag me along. It wasn't something that I was ready for in my life at the time or that was relevant to me at the time, but since then I moved away and had lots of life experiences, and in the meantime got married and became a widow. My husband passed away a year before Emmy and I moved back to Reno, and at the time, well, it was obviously a really hard time in my life.
I first walked into this building, attended my first UUFNN service 2 years ago this month. And it was an experience for me. Sarah and I were brought here by the irrepressible Linda Hansen. As a result, we met just about everybody who was here that day.
My name is David Shirey, and the reason why I joined UUFNN is well known in the congregation. I came to this town, Reno, because my parents lived here, and they wanted some help. My mother was having some illness problems, so I moved to Reno. I was happy to do that. I'd visited Reno before. They'd been here for 20 years, and I loved this town. So I came here and I helped them out, but after they'd both died by 2011, I went into a depression.
And then 2012, I had neurosurgery. All this to say that I was in a pretty bad state and feeling very alone. And I have a very good friend in New York who we speak weekly. She belongs to a wonderful church called Middle Church in Lower Manhattan in East Village. She knew that I was searching, really searching for community. And she called me up on a Thursday, I have it on my calendar, and told me about Unitarian Universalists. There was a congregation in Petaluma, and that they had a coffee hour before service.
UU's been a place to come back to for some sustenance and some consistency.
When we moved into this building, our children were almost adults by then, so a lot of time had gone by. And I'm so thankful that they had a chance to grow up in this community because they had adults that cared for them. They learned how to be successful adults in this community, and they are raising their children right now. And the same ethics and the same values that they learned here, they're giving their own children, and I am very proud of that.
The service started, and there was this guy standing up in the front running things. Turned out to be Dave Bianchi. And I remember thinking, well, what's the minister doing? Why is this guy running the show? And figured out after that there was a good reason for that. And it's great having folks up here helping to run the service so that Reverend Karen's not doing all the work, and you just hear different voices and different perspectives.
And in fact, I was in a mental hospital. I was very sick. I was very depressed. And my sister came to town to help take care of me once I got out. And she said, you know what you need is you may need a community of faith or a church that you can go to. I said, I've looked at the churches in Reno and they're all way too conservative. I can't find anything that's for me. She looked online and she said, well, there's this place called UUFNN.
Well, I obviously grew up in the congregation, and for me, it's opened a lot of doors. I think the biggest one, namely, would be my work in climate activism. So I learned about Schools for Climate Action through UU and CCL through UU, and that's opened even more doors for me, leading even to a culminating trip when I went to DC to advocate for climate action, and that was all through UU. So that's probably the biggest thing for me about UU would be introduction to climate action.
What's CCL?
Citizens Climate Lobby.
Oh, okay.
That's one thing I'd say about the congregation is they're always welcoming, no matter who you are, whether you're the same as them or different. They welcome people with differences, and they just embrace you for who you are in whatever stage of life you're in.
I think that's really what we're excited about. Believe we're on the cusp of a major growth with the leadership of Reverend Karen and Kristen and Bill Quinby and our leadership that are volunteering. I believe that this fellowship is going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to make an impact, not only on our own individual fellowship community, but on the community at large.
And they and we, as UUFNN, are intent on doing our best to make the world just a little bit better in the places where we can.
I think for me, UU has been something that I've actually been a little slow to come to. I wasn't raised in an organized religion. We were kind of high holiday people, and so I wasn't really a part of anything like this until I met Terry, and he had been coming to UU before we met each other. And I was a little reticent, like, okay, got a slow start. And once we had kids, I saw really the importance of having them be a part of something that was our value system, but people who weren't just us.
I think about what UU has been for me, and it's a lot of being able to go out and teach other people about, you know, what is a small community in all actuality, and being able to tell my friends, yeah, I am a Unitarian and what that means, and being able to show people that, you know, there's good things going on out in the world, and that there's always a community that even if we don't know you, or even if have never met you before, that we're still ready to welcome you in and have you be part of us and be with our congregation.
UUFNN has been my sanctuary, if you'll pardon the term. And I often tell my sister and brother, because my brother also took care of me when I was sick, they helped save my life after my breakdown. But it's UUFNN that has given me a reason to live.
I was just starting to be introduced to being a worship associate right as the pandemic hit and we shut down. So most of my experience being a worship associate and really getting involved in the services has been online. And I actually think it's been great because we're still meeting, and every Sunday we still have a service that I now get to be a part of. I've met new people through this, and I think honestly it's like a core life skill, communicating with people and putting on this culminating service every week. So
I love the emphasis on making the world a better place and not just thinking about it or praying about it, but actually taking action and inspiring other people and working together to take action and challenging what we believe. I've grown a lot in open-mindedness and perspectives on the world since being here.
The UUFNN has helped me physically, practically, financially, I'm alone here, basically, but I'm not. I'm not alone here. I'm in the UUFNN family, and that is a powerful thing.
Good morning, here we are live. We'd like to take just a second to let you know why our family pledges to UUFNN. Personally, we're growing our next generation. It's not free. And Carrie and Wally's working today at Squeeze In at McCarran and Las Brisas. If anyone's hungry after services, you can also see him live. Our kids have really benefited from being a part of this community, and we take that very seriously. Carrie can tell you a little bit about what she's enjoyed, but I have seen my kids be a part of our religious education. I've seen them go to summer camp outside of Mendocino. I've seen them participate in Chalice Camp here on our campus. I've seen them get to go to Washington, D.C. and be a part of the CCL. I've seen them get to become a worship associate, and I've seen them go through the coming of age program and go to our district retreats in the Pacific Northwest area. I've seen Wally be a board member, and I've also seen so much growth and mentorship. I want to see it for everybody. So my kids are almost 18 and almost 20, so 17 and 19. We've got younger kids coming up. We want to see the same things for them. So we're $15,000 away from our goal and investing in our youth, and we can do it.
I don't have a ton to add to what Adrienne said, because between the video and what she said, really, how could I improve upon it? But I would just like to say that as a family, UUFNN has been something we've been able to interact with at all stages of our family's life. So whether it was when we were first together as a couple, or first having kids and meeting people who were a little more knowledgeable about having kids because they were further down that path. Whether it was, as Adrienne said, middle school programs and camps, or high school activities, or even now participating as a worship associate or other programs in the fellowship. It's been really a constant piece of our family's life to come back to things that are going on at UUFNN. And I think it's so crucial that we have a place like this for all families to be able to interact with, because we make this available through our participation, our time, and our treasure. It's available to people when they are ready for it, whether they have kids, whether they are single, whether they're coupled, or some other configuration. So I hope we will continue to create this space for whatever people are here now, and then whatever people are coming at some later point.
Hey guys. So obviously, as my parents mentioned, they started bringing me here when I was really young. A lot of you probably have known me since then. I've known a lot of you basically my whole life through UU. So that started out being in the nursery with Nana Bev. Then we used to do Yule log decorating around Christmas time, and I was a waitress for the Mother's Day brunches. Things like that that are really core memories for me as growing up and part of my childhood. Beyond that, getting to be a part of the Our Whole Lives education program, which I think every kid should be able to experience. Being part of Chalice Camp and also the Miss Camp in California. Again, meeting kids who I wouldn't have otherwise met, who I don't go to school with, but I really became friends with, again, through UU. So when you're thinking about pledging, think of it more as an investment, not just a pledge, but an investment in your community and experiences for people like me and the younger generation, and also an investment in the future.
It's time for our chalice lighting this morning. And as that's being lit in the great room, those of you who are online with me, if you have a chalice that you want to light, let's light the flame together and then listen to some chalice lighting words by Julian Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths.
and from all the writings that fill the world's shelves. We love all others as we love ourselves. Though we come from many places, we smile with 1,000 faces. Love all others as we love ourselves. Our Jewish Christian roots help us stand tall, but without reason and science we'd surely fall. Through all our sacred sources we find our worth, in harmony with the cycle of life on earth. We come from many places, smile with 1,000 faces, harmony, the cycle of life on earth. In harmony with the cycle of life on earth.
And now we'll be doing a responsive reading, myself and Kharma. And this is from Sophia Lyons Faz in It Matters What We Believe. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies.
Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days in fears of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness.
Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern.
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world.
Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. I want to start by saying how grateful I am to Reverend Karen, who's been a friend of mine for 20 years, a close colleague, for inviting me to be with you this morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. And she asked me to talk about the UU sources, and so I'm excited to do that. Let me start by asking how many of you have ever been with a toddler who has discovered that wonderful word, why? It can be fun when young ones begin to curiously probe their world and try to understand what they can about the great mysteries of life. Asking why over and over and over again for hours upon hours, because the questions are so many, so big, and so important. It starts when we're very young, that we want to know more about the world, the creatures around us, the majesty of nature, how to be good people, what it means to love, how to do the right thing, what's the meaning of life, all the big, big questions. Well, this morning we're going to be reflecting on a question that's essential in this kind of search for wisdom and understanding, and that is the question, where do we look for answers? To whom do we listen? Do we listen to them all the time or just under certain circumstances? How do we know what we know? In spiritual communities, this is a theological question. With whom or what do we consult when we are looking for truths? Who or what can be trusted? What are the sources of our knowing? Who or what are the religious or ethical authorities that help us navigate the world as good people? When I was growing up in rural Oklahoma, people in my town used to answer these big questions with a bumper sticker that said, God said it, I believe it, that settles it. Well, in my experience, what that really meant was something like, I already think it. I found something in the Bible that I think backs me up. And if you don't agree with me, you might as well not bother saying anything, because I will not be changing my mind anyway. And that sticker also always begged the deeper question, which I asked, how do you know what God says anyway? And in my context, they would answer, of course, the Bible, that the Bible is the word of God. It was made very clear to me in my Bible-believing Baptist church that we were supposed to look to the Bible as the ultimate source of religious authority. It was also made clear to me, as a younger child anyway, that asking questions about the Bible or its truthfulness was strictly verboten. The image in my mind of how I was taught to read the Bible or respond more generally to religious authority is an image of a dashboard dog, stuck in a perpetual state of nodding, unquestioning assent, compliant orthodoxy or rightness of belief. That's the way I was taught to read. Now, for me, perhaps you, for billions of other people, that way of reading religious texts, the Bible in particular, can quickly become unsatisfying, especially if that big, good book has ever been used against you as a weapon. Because of Bible abuse, often coupled with an observation of the hypocrisy of so-called believers, many people grow skeptical about or even resistant to anything that comes from the Bible or whatever their sacred text is, and they throw it out as a source of authority, like the proverbial baby with the bathwater. And I get that impulse. I've been there. Religious scholar Marcus Borg talks about the ways in which people read the Bible or whatever their written sources of authority are, by saying that there is an early pre-critical naivete that people have when it's easy to just accept the things that we're taught without questioning them, when believing the stories of our tradition is easy and doesn't really even require faith. That's the first stage of relating to a source of religious authority, but it almost always moves into another stage once someone begins critical thinking, when they start asking why. And associated questions like, well, if God made the world, then who made God? Or if there were no other people, where did Cain and Abel find their wives? Or it's not possible for a fish to swallow a person and them survive. Or virgins simply do not get pregnant. See, once critical thinking enters in, it becomes clear that either the source of religious authority is inadequate and one rejects it entirely, or it's meant to be engaged perhaps in a different way than we may have thought, than we may have been taught. And if one takes that path very far, not of rejection, but critical engagement, well, Borg says they then move into a different stage of relationship with the source of their religious tradition. And he calls that stage the post-critical naivete, when one has the ability to accept different kinds of truths. One's not equated with facts or rooted in the notion that scripture is always literal or infallible. I can remember the season in my life when my own relationship with the Bible shifted in that way, when I felt confident enough to read it in a posture quite different from a dashboard dog, resistantly, when I thought to myself, maybe reacting in revulsion to a scripture that says we should dash the heads of babies against rocks is the right reaction. Maybe we're supposed to object when the Bible becomes a weapon that harms and people who claim to speak for God abuse and exclude the very neighbors they're supposed to love. Maybe we should scrunch our eyes and shake our heads when things like that come up because they don't sound right. To use a metaphor from the Hebrew Bible, maybe the blessings, maybe the wisdom comes precisely during and because of our wrestling with or against the text or the source. Maybe truth is discovered not in the text at all, but in us through our interaction with it. That was a liberating leap for me. And so you can imagine how much more liberating it was for me to discover the Unitarian Universalist sources document. You know, it was the first and only time that I ever felt like I could nod along consciously, on purpose, in agreement with the church's stated ideas about where to look for spiritual and ethical guidance and wisdom. In 1985, the UUA revised the original statement of purposes that happened when the Unitarians and Universalists came together, and they revised it to include what we now know of as the UU principles and sources. A major impetus for the revision of those UU statements was the insistence of women that we eliminate the use of sexist or exclusionary language in the bylaws in such phrases as the dignity of man or the constant repetition of he pronouns. That's incidentally a bonus women's history tidbit for the day. But there were two major conversation points also happening at the same time that influenced what happened when those documents were revised. One was the conviction that other religious traditions besides Judaism and Christianity are also legitimate and important to our heritage. And secondly, that our relationship to our environment, to the earth, is one of our primary religious concerns. Out of those competing desires, and quite amazingly for any religious group, especially a UU one, the revisions were passed nearly unanimously and have gone untouched for many years, despite our constant returning to our living tradition to see if revisions need to be made. And so for many years, this is what we have agreed upon, that we promote and affirm these 6 sources of wisdom and spirituality. I know you know them, but hear them again. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. And spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Isn't that a wonderfully expansive description of the many sources available to resource our spirituality? It is to me. And one of the most important expansions about what can be a legitimate source for religious truth and authority, I think, is that which includes and honors personal experience as a primary source of our knowing. Some religious traditions have used suspicion or denigration of the individual's own experience as a way of keeping people in their place. It's an effective control strategy. But when people, especially marginalized people, aren't deterred by that, when folks honor their own experience and their own capacity for reason, they may well find answers to the big, big questions in a place where some authorities don't want us to look. There's an ancient Greek legend that when the gods made the human species, they started arguing about where to put the answers to life so that humans would have to search for them. One god said, let's put the answers on top of a mountain. They'll never look for them there. No, said the others, they'll find them right away. Another of the gods said, let's put them in the center of the earth. They'll never look for them there. No, said the others, they'll find them there right away. Then another spoke, let's put them in the bottom of the sea. They'll never look for them there. No, said the others, they'll find them right away. And silence fell upon them until after a while, another god spoke. We can put the answers to life's questions within them. They will never look for them there. And so they did, the legend goes. We have an important source of knowledge, as well as a basic BS filter already inside us. That's why Walt Whitman, whom UUs love to claim as one of our ancestors, wisely encouraged us, re-examine all you have been told in school or church or in any book. Dismiss what insults your very soul. We can trust ourselves much more than certain others would have us believe. And it's also true that the spiritual quest is about more than our own experience. It's often joked about that to be Unitarian Universalist means you can believe in anything or nothing. And while that may technically be true, it misses one of the primary reasons that we are who we are and that we do what we do as congregations and communities of faith. Because we do care about truth and we care about one another. We're looking for ways to get the most out of life, the most meaning. We want to know how to be better people and how to engage in collaborative actions that will make the world better for everyone. And we do it together because the spiritual journey, that quest for truth and meaning, and our striving to live in love until we get there, is best done in community. In his book, A Hidden Wholeness, The Journey to an Undivided Life, Parker Palmer comments on the ways in which our individual and communal journeys converge where we support one another. And he notes that, of course, solitude is essential to our personal integration and wholeness. There are places in the landscapes of our lives where no one can accompany us. But because we are communal creatures who need each other's support, and because left to our own devices, we have an endless capacity for self-absorption and self-deception, community is equally essential. That kind of spiritual community, which I experience as being aspirational for most UU congregations, that kind of community that you demonstrated in that video that was played earlier, Parker Palmer says of that kind of community that it supports rather than supplants the individual quest for integrity, and that it's rooted in two basic beliefs. First, we all have an inner teacher whose guidance is more reliable than anything we can get from a doctrine, theology, ideology, collective belief system, institution, or leader. And second, we all need other people to invite, amplify, and help us discern the inner teacher's voice. It's so important, as I said earlier, that we reclaim belief in and reliance upon our best inner teachers, the wisdom that lives in our own hearts and minds. And it's also vital that we do this in conversation and community with other sources of wisdom, because our own perspective is limited. It only shows a part of the picture. I know you'll be familiar with one of the most prominent metaphors for describing this phenomenon. The earliest texts for the story exist in Buddhist and Hindu scriptures, but it's also present in Sufi and Baha'i lore, and it's the story of the blind man and the elephant, right? The blind man heard that a strange animal called an elephant had been brought to the town, but none of them had ever heard of one and didn't know what it was like. And so out of curiosity, they said, let's go and inspect it by touch. Let's experience it for ourselves. And so they sought it out. And when they found it, they groped about it. And the first person whose hand landed on the trunk said, this being is like a very thick snake. For another one whose hand reached its ear, it seemed like a kind of fan. As for another person whose hand was upon its leg, they said the elephant is like a pillar, a tree trunk. The one who placed their hand upon its side said of the elephant, it is a wall, a textured wall. Another who felt its tail described it as a rope. The last felt its tusk, saying that categorically the elephant is that which is hard, smooth, and like a spear. And of course, regardless of the details of the story, it takes many twists and turns, but the blind people learned that they were all partially correct and all partially wrong. And the moral of the story is that while one's subjective personal experience is true, it may not be the totality of truth. It is important, but not the whole thing. Whatever our backgrounds are, as Unitarian Universalists, we are part of a living tradition. We look to a number of perspectives, a variety of sources, ancient and contemporary, that in combination and in community can help us in our search for truth and meaning, can give us insights into the purpose of life and our place in it if we engage those questions. I want to close by reading you a quintessential UU poem by Nancy Schaefer. It's called For Margaret, Who Fights the Same Battle Over and Over. And she writes, listen, when you quarrel with God, really you're quarreling with those who've come after God. It is not God who taught you only a certain prayer or said reward lies in only one direction. It is not God who said reward rather than embracing love, which is everywhere. Not God who taught you to hate God, shun God. Those like you, two-legged and mortal, did this. Those also hurt in turn by others before them. You could leave off this quarreling. Just begin again with just yourself and God. You can choose a different name for the holy. Stop cringing when I say mine. Each is only a word for what can't be said. The barest beginning, a glimpse. The rest you may do in private. But see, what you do there in private shows. What you come back with is written all over you. It doesn't matter what the particular word is, only that you return there often, opening yourself to everything that makes it. Those who taught you what to pray and how to pray were wrong if what they taught you, you hate. But you can begin again. I love this poem because it reclaims the human freedom and capacity to do our own searching, to let go of toxic religiosity that would have us hate ourselves or anyone else, and to follow whatever path it is, whatever paths they are that lead us to wisdom, wholeness, kindness, love, and justice. But may we begin again our journeys of spiritual discovery with a renewed sense of openness to the many sources of inspiration that call and guide us to a more just and verdant world. May it be so.
At this time in our service, we are given the opportunity to share our treasures generously with others. Our in-person hosts will assist with passing the basket. In addition to your tithes and offerings, we also invite you to contribute to our Share the Plate for March, Northern Nevada Hopes, a nonprofit dedicated to providing primary health care to those who otherwise would not have access: undocumented immigrants, unemployed or underemployed people, the homeless, uninsured and underinsured. Hopes is there to ensure they all have access to quality health care on a sliding scale. If you are following virtually, please text 73256. That's 73256. Type UUFNN in the message box and hit send. Or you can also mail a check to the office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, 89511. Let us join together to bless these offerings. To the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings.
Thank you.
invite us now to set our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits for our time of community prayer and meditation. At this time, we might be asking the whys and the wheres and the with whoms, the hows for truth and trust. Perhaps because of our core principles, we will be able to release resistance, rejection, the discouragement of our own felt sense of illegitimacy from time to time that comes when we dishonor the truth that we know lies within us. We seek the unlimited source of our true knowing to express our gratitude for the unexpected answers being right in our own hearts. Grateful for the confidence that comes from our ability to think critically. We request healing, forgiveness, strength, whatever it is we need to be whole again. I invite you to record your blessings and your burdens in the chat box so that we can hold them together as a community. We ask the Holy One to help us remember we are one community, held together through our individual and communal journey. That's how we support rather than supplant. That's how we get discernment, how we get to the totality, so that we can begin again, again, and again to reclaim our wholeness. So as a community, we make our gesture to ourselves and each other. One hand on our heart, the other extended outward in a silent expression to say, I see you. I hear you. We are here for each other. Amen.
Those of you who are keen observers and tech nerds will notice the complete absence of microphone stands in the altar area. You will also notice that above me and just behind me, there is a brand new row of microphones hanging from the structure up in the ceiling. We want to thank Philip and Phil Duplessis, Philip Moore, Philip Duplessis, Emily, Michelle, everybody for helping to put these in and make them work correctly. So we're going to try them out right now.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today, for getting dressed. And it's not easy on a Sunday morning. It's nice to see these seats getting filled a little bit more, every week. It's really a beautiful thing to look out at this audience. We're going in the right direction. So thank you. If you're new with us and this is your first time, you can learn about connecting with UUFN at ufnn.org/online connections. To receive our weekly email and other updates from UUFNN, click on the link to our contact card in the middle of the page. If you need help with Zoom or other support, or know of someone who might need help with Zoom or other support, please connect with Carol Sorensen, and she is at office@uufnn.org. You're not expected to remember all of this. This is also on our website. Just Google Unitarian Reno. Okay. After the service ends, please stay online if you're on Zoom to join our informal virtual coffee hour. You'll see an invitation appear on your screen to join a breakout room. If during coffee hour you need help, support, or questions answered, please press the help button in your breakout room. And everyone else, feel free to hang out sensibly masked. And remember, hugging is still optional, but now allowed. I think that should get claps for sure. And I know we've gone a little bit long today, but we just have one more tiny but important announcement, and here's Bill.
Thank you. I feel a little bit like the boy who cries wolf, and I sincerely hope I am, because I only have a moment to alert you to an incredibly alarming event coming up Tuesday. Tuesday morning at the Washoe County Board of Commissioners chambers. What's usually a mundane, lackluster government business meeting is going to be turned into a circus by various so-called patriot groups, QAnon crazies, and their far-right Republican allies intent on destroying our local election integrity by deliberately undercutting democracy. While many of the people showing up may appear to be buffoonish clowns, the people and money behind them are smart, strategic, and deadly serious. The Trojan horse they are riding in on is called the Herman Resolution, intent on solving a non-existent voter fraud by undermining our democracy, first here, then statewide, then across America. Their demands to reform voting would do Hitler proud. And while their resolution is unlikely to pass, that's not the point. Not yet, anyway. Tactically, for Tuesday, the point is to mob the chamber with crazies, to make it appear that they represent the majority in Washoe County, so that their defeat by the council proves they are victims oppressed by a sinister deep state. Tactically, even if they lose, they win. The only way for rational, fair-minded, democracy-loving people can prevail in this treacherous debacle is to show up in even greater numbers. That means you, me, everyone we know, showing up en masse at the council chambers Tuesday morning. This event is not happening in a vacuum. The world will be watching and judging our commitment to democracy right here in Washoe County. This is a test case, a trial balloon. The oligarchs in the shadows and their dark money wins this. They will eventually win everything. I cannot overstate the danger we are facing. Please set aside this Tuesday morning if you can. Let everyone know that you can. And follow the emails from Carol with more instructions. Thank you for your time.
Stars for every sea.
Our closing words are from James Morrison, who reminds us, within each of our hearts, there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions. Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need of help in both body and spirit, that they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love. Go forth and share your most glorious light with the world.